Often they're using testimonials or other kinds of, promises to help market and sell their courses. So we are frequently working with them on complying with the Federal Trade Commission rules around all of these things.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's start with some basic questions, which is, what is the FTC? What is the Federal Trade Commission? And is what we're talking about only related to US-based businesses, or how does the FTC relate to the coaching industry?
Yes. So the Federal Trade Commission is a U.S. government agency. So it's part of our federal government. It applies in all 50 states in the United States. And their job is to enforce, one of their jobs is to enforce consumer protection laws. So that's really what we're talking about today. Is the FTC wants to make sure that if someone is buying from you and you've promised them X, that they are actually getting X, that there's no bait and switch, that you're not being scammy, you're not promising more than you can deliver. So yes, it does apply to anyone doing business in the United States. And I should have given my standard disclaimer. I always forget until I get going. So I am a lawyer. None of this is legal advice. So please just take this as information. If you have questions about your own business, please work with a lawyer. This is one of those areas where we do not dabble. We do not DIY. So if this sounds like, your business is in that mid 6 to 7 figure range, this is something you need to be working on with a lawyer.
Yeah. And that's a great question, or great point is, how has the FTC shifted over the last few years? Are they keeping a closer eye on the coaching industry? And should coaches who are just starting out be worried about this? Or is it really for those who are bringing in multi-millions? Who should be worried about it? And how has the eyes of the FTC shifted over the last few years?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are definitely seeing more attention being paid to online businesses by the FTC. Actually, you can go on their website and see every single enforcement action that they have sent out. It's kind of fascinating to see all the different ones. So I think especially since 2020, when so many online businesses sprung up and a lot of them, were really fly by night, were not actually delivering on their promises. And a lot of people were scammed. So I think the FTC has gotten a lot of complaints. What we see is they are typically going after a larger business. Now, in the 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said, if you're not like big corporation, you're probably not on their target. I would say that has changed. They are definitely going after what I would consider a smaller, large online business. So I would say still, to get on their radar, you're probably looking at multi-million annual revenues. But there are also state agencies that basically do the same thing as the FTC, state attorney generals. There's state laws that are very similar to the federal laws. So the FTC is not the only one to be aware of. But I would say if you're complying with FTC regulations, you're probably complying with state regulations, just to kind of keep things simple. As far as when to start thinking about this, I think it's a great idea, to get all of your systems set up right from the get-go. But I would say, I don't want people losing sleep about this if you have not even made your first dollar. Let's get out there and take action. But when you do start to hit, I would say 6 figures or higher, it's a good time to kind of evaluate your marketing and make sure that you are complying. Again, I don't know that you need to meet with a lawyer then, but it's worth kind of looking into what the rules are. The FTC actually has a lot of really helpful PDFs that are meant for small businesses. They're not meant for lawyers, that you can kind of peruse and just kind of get at a very high level what kinds of things you need to be doing.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I'm curious, when you're dealing with FTC, when are they cruising our Instagrams and saying okay, Ashley has a launch coming up and she says she can help people with the Airtable systems. I don't know if she can, let me go after her. Is the FTC looking, are people reporting people when they've been scammed? I think that the whole, the word scam gets thrown around a lot in our industry. And especially if you had a bad time in somebody's program, somebody will call you a scammer. And so I'm curious, in the eyes of the FTC, what actually is a scam? I find with a lot of my clients, they're not actively trying to scam people, but they aren't tracking their client results. And kind of where is the line between, oh, I'm trying to scam somebody, and oh, I don't have my client results all documented and I could get in trouble for that. I'd love to hear in the eyes of the law, what actually is a scam, and what are they coming after? What are they coming after coaching businesses for?
Yeah, so I've never worked in the FTC, so I don't know exactly all of their processes and protocols. But from what I can see from the outside, it is a business that has gotten a lot of consumer complaints. So I asked for a refund. They had a money back guarantee. I asked for a refund. They didn't give it to me. Or they promised me I could make $10,000 a month working from home in my free time. And, the program actually didn't teach me how to do that. So it's really going to be those egregious companies that they're coming after. I will say the other thing that we see every time, I've read a lot of these in researching this for our clients, the FTC will always reach out first. They will always send a letter. Now, the letter is scary. It's not a great thing to receive, but they will reach out and they will say, we think you're violating, the various laws and regulations in these ways. Please stop. Please contact us. We want to make sure that you're on the right side of this. And what we see is when you actually get hauled into court, it is typically you've either ignored the FTC or maybe you talked to them and you said you would stop, but you didn't. So we see, again, it's the really, really worst case, bad actors that they're actually coming after. Now, are there smaller settlements that probably never reach the courts? Probably, yes. Okay. But I would say on the issue of being called a scam, this is kind of, I'm a little sensitive to this because we help our clients with refund issues, and unhappy customers is something we deal with a lot. And, the larger your business gets, the more customers you have, you're just going to have a couple who aren't happy. It's inevitable. I have never seen, when a client sends me a refund request and we're kind of digging through all the documents to see what happened, I've never seen one that was what I would call a scam, which is you made a big promise and you could nowhere near help someone achieve that. Or you promised them you'd give them their money back and then you refused. It's almost always, like you said, somebody had a bad time in the program. They didn't get exactly what they thought. There was maybe a miscommunication or their understanding wasn't clear. But I think when we're talking about scammers, like, when I have seen some of these complaints, it really is, they're cold calling grandmas and trying to get them to spend their retirement savings on these programs. Like, it is really, really gross. And, people who have no chance of developing a social media presence and making a lot of money online, and they're very targeted. They're very aggressive with their sales pitches. It is typically not what I am seeing, at least among my clients.
Yeah, it seems like there's definitely some nefarious intent there.
Yes. Which it is a money grab.
Yeah. So very clear money grabs, and something that I always, if anybody in my circle is worried about being a scammer, I'm like, you're not the scammer if you're worried about if you're scamming people. Yes. But it makes sense that people are cautious. So I have, my clients are typically in two camps of what they're promising in their results. One is either very money or metrics based. So make 10K, have a 6-figure business. There's those types of results that they're promising. And then there's other more intangible things, confidence, decreasing anxiety. So how do you make sure that, of course, you're not trying to scam people? You have results, you're able to get the majority of your clients' results, but how do you make sure that when you have a coaching offer that is promising something tangible like money or intangible like confidence, how do you make sure that you are approaching, doing all of that legally, I guess? What are your thoughts there? I know we have tracking systems, which we can get into that. Are those covering people's asses in that way? Is our tracking systems the thing that we can be hey, we have the results, we're actually good here. What are the tangible things that we can have to promise these things, or should we not even be promising these things at all? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. I think any kind of claims, like we're talking about, promises and marketing, are incredibly powerful. So I don't want to tell you not to use them at all. But like you said, you definitely want to use them mindfully with some caution. So the rules are really the same, whether you've got some sort of monetary or number promise. I would say we see this the most in health and wellness. So weight loss or reducing body fat or, those kinds of claims, and monetary. So earn 6 figures, earn 10K a month, whatever. Those, I would say the money and the weight loss are the two that the FTC tends to zero in on. I think because it is so tangible and it is so easy to say, you promised they'd lose 20 pounds in a month. Only 1% of your clients are able to do that. That's clearly, not a valid claim. So the basic rule, and if you kind of keep this in mind in your marketing, you're going to be probably 95% of where you need to be, which is tell the truth. So be honest, don't try and overblow what your program or your business can do, and you are going to be okay. So the basic rules for using testimonials or making, endorsements, earnings claims, is basically you have to be able to substantiate them. So that means you have to back them up with some sort of evidence. And that's true for these, I felt 10% happier, or, I went from being worried and anxious all the time to now I feel really calm and great, as well as any kind of weight loss or monetary claim. So we want to have a reasonable basis. So you don't have to have it, it doesn't have to be an exact average or the exact, the exact result that people are getting, but it needs to be, in the range of what most of your clients are seeing. And this is why it is so important to track, because a lot of our clients will come to us for help with this compliance. And one of the first questions we ask is, well, is this, a kind of standard result? Is this testimonial or this claim? And often they say, well, I mean, I think it's true. Like they told me, but they can't really say across their clients if it's average or normal. And they often can't even really say for that one person, is that real? Did they actually achieve that result? And so the law does require both that you be able to substantiate it. So you do some sort of digging. We're not talking about like evidence you would present in court, but you have to have a reasonable basis. And then it also needs to be typical of your ordinary client. So if you are highlighting superstars, which all of us love to do, then we get into disclaimer land. We can talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that, and something that we do in my work. So if you are just finding me for the first time, I am an Airtable expert, and Airtable is a database platform that is absolutely a requirement for tracking client results. It's the best way to track your client results. And one of the things that we really help our clients do is, yes, we want to highlight those star people that are achieving the results, but we make sure that everybody in our programs have what we call macro trends and macro results trends on their sales pages. So I'm actually going to share my screen and just share my client, Maddie, and I would love to get your thoughts on this from a legal perspective, because I think that she's doing it. Like, she has all of the data to back up this claim. So Maddie is a photographer, and she teaches brand photographers how to confidently charge 4 figures for brand photography, nights and weekends not required. So very clear promise. And she has, of course, the standard type of sales page. She has these types of wins, which this is just me not knowing the law, but like knowing common sense. I'm like, okay, these are all nice things, but it's not like super data backed. It's like nice, like, yay, I did it. I booked things. What she's able to do now because of our Airtable tracking systems is stuff like this. And this is what I'm curious your thoughts on, Autumn, is like Rebrand has collectively helped photographers book $162,136.10 with brand photography this year. She knows that because she's tracking every single client sale.
Yeah.
The average brand session booked is $1,100. The average client says their confidence increases during Rebrand. The average client takes 72 days to book a 4-figure brand session. So this is the type of data that I'm very passionate at our clients collecting, not just to like legally cover themselves, because I'm like, this helps with sales too, but because we have you here from a legal perspective, like, is this the type of thing that the FTC would like look at your sales page and be like, she's doing, I mean, of course you can't know say that directly, but like, are these the type of green flags that we should be working towards when we are like selling our coaching offers?
Yes, I love seeing this. So, looking at this first one that they've helped collectively book, that big number, 162K. I think that's fantastic. My only concern is, and like, here's where this is very gray. So one lawyer may be more cautious, another lawyer may be more aggressive, one business may be more cautious or more aggressive. So a lot of this depends on how risk averse you are in your business. That big number jumps out, and the rest of the type around it is really small. So I wonder if, and I'd be curious if someone landed on this site just to get their impression, like, do they think one person is going to make that? Is that clear that that is like all of their clients? Mm-hmm. That's just kind of a question mark for me. But I love these at the bottom. And I should say first, this is her data from her clients. So we know that she's collected it, and we know that it's hopefully substantiated, that she's asking them to report, and, that she's tracking it. So she knows this is not just totally made up data. Right. I love below the average brand session booked is this amount, 1141. The average client says XYZ. The average client takes, 72 days to book. That's so great. It's so specific. So I really love that. So my question for her would be like, I don't know how she came up with these numbers or how she's defining average. But as long as that is, really typical, then this looks great to me.
Yeah. And I can share because I do know how, because this is the type of systems that we set up. So Maddie has a tracker that every time a client books a brand photography session, they fill out an Airtable form. And and I think she asked them, like, of course, how much did you book the session for? What's your confidence rating scale? And then she knows from the back end, based on when they submitted the form and when they joined, like how long it takes them. So she's actively encouraging every single client to self-report. So I'm sure it's never a perfect science when you do ask people to self-report their data, but it's better than nothing. And a lot of coaches, unfortunately, do have nothing other than their like Slack wins that like people are just popping in and sharing because they're excited. And so having self-reported data, I'm assuming is better than nothing. It's maybe not 100% perfect, but what else can we do other than like make sure that we have those like systems to self-report? That seems like the only real way to do it, unless you have other star ways that people can report their data.
Yeah. My only other question for her would be, are 100% of your clients reporting? So is that really an average of everyone or only of the ones who do report? Because those could be different percentages. And I don't know how that plays out in her business, because there is an expectation that if there's a lot of effort required to get the result, that you would say, and this is especially true with weight loss, something like, the average participant ate 1,000 calories and worked out 7 times a day, to get this result, just so it's clear, like this is a really effortful result. So I'd be interested to hear from her. And again, it's great, but that's just something I'd be curious about if I were working with her.
That's a great point. And because I know our Airtable reporting systems are so robust, it's like how much like caveats and things out of the 75% of people report, and of those 75% report, you have all of those numbers, but it's like, what do you want to lead with in your marketing? And like, what feels like you're not trying to fake out people. And I think that that's so much that I see people have these amazing star students, and then at the end they have this huge paragraph at the bottom of their site that says like results not typical. Like they have these big disclaimers. So talk to me about those disclaimers and results not being typical, and just like that, is that something that everybody should have as a disclaimer for results not typical? What's that about?
Yeah, so it is very specific to the what is the claim being made, what is the evidence to back it up. It's not something where you can just slap up that results not typical disclaimer and like you're good to go. So that is something where we are always digging in with our clients to the data, to how did they calculate that percentage, or how did they come up with that number, and then we craft the disclaimer. I would say we probably do a disclaimer most times. There is a claim being made. It's just a little bit of belt and suspenders, even if it really is, you've got the data, you've substantiated it, because there's almost always some sort of caveat. So like in the example you were just showing, it might even be, 80% of clients reported booking or whatever, because it's probably not 100%. So you might just want to go ahead and say that. And, after attending, one session a week or whatever, like what was the work required to achieve that result? Like it wasn't just you enroll and automatically the consults start rolling in.
Yeah. And that's a question I always have too, is that people are scared. It's like, well, I can't promise that they'll make 10K, because if they don't do the work that I say that they're going to do, like they have to do the work. So where do you balance like the clients who just simply are going to enroll in a program and not do anything with it and not get a result, versus the people who, if you roll out a framework and you say, if you do these steps, the majority of clients are going to get this result? If someone had that worry, what would you say to them?
Yeah. So, similar to the weight loss disclaimer, it could be something like, 70% of participants who actively engaged in the program, attending calls, or however you want to say it, so that it doesn't sound scary and like really, really burdensome. But, you could say something like 70% of participants who, actively engaged in the program and completed the assigned work or something like that. achieved these results, just to make it clear that like it's not automatic.
Yeah, I love being clear about that, like saying like of the people who actively participate and self-report, here are the
I love the
numbers
self-report
or
too.
Something like that, because also with our Airtable systems as well, every moving piece about the engagement of your client is tracked in one place in Airtable. So you can pull up Autumn's client profile and you can see when is the last time she attended a coaching call, how much money has she submitted in her wins. So then you can use that data in your results reporting of like, if like 70% of people who come to calls once a month are reporting these types of results. And you can get very, very granular depending on the type of questions that you have. That I don't think any of us like the FTC. I'm not worried about the FTC, but I am not worried, but I feel very comfortable that if somebody has a question, has an objection of like, hey, I live in the middle of nowhere. Is your dating program going to work for me? Right. You can pull up your results and say, well, of the 70% of people, there's 70% of the people in the program live in a town with a population of less than 2,000 and they're getting 3 dates a week. Whatever, like you can have that would be amazing. Numbers. Yeah. Like that's what our tracking systems do. And so that's really important. So I think that so many people got like spooked by the FTC stuff of like, oh my God, they're coming after the coaching industry. Seems like what you're saying is like, okay, maybe we don't have to be we have to be aware of it, but like you don't have to worry about that they're coming after you, but it's still a good idea to have these tracking systems in place for so many other reasons than just like getting sued by the FTC.
Yes. Well, and I'll add one other area where we are seeing kind of similar issues come up that is not specifically the FTC, but we have had unhappy customers threaten to sue clients, wanting a refund. This is usually with really high ticket programs. So they've spent, $25K, $50K or more. They want a refund. And we have seen threats to sue them under various state, unfair competition laws or consumer protection laws. And in that case, these same kinds of issues could come up. So they would say, this was deceptive advertising, or this is fraud because I was promised one thing and they knew they couldn't deliver it and I ended up getting this other thing. So that is also a risk. So the FTC is definitely not the only thing to be concerned about here.
I think that's the more relevant concern to a lot of my audience as well, is like, if you are making claims in your program, I like 15K mastermind and you say you're going to have a 100K launch and you don't have a 100K launch, like they can come to you and say like, I didn't get I didn't make the result in this program. And with our Airtable systems, you can pull up your base and say, you have not submitted any support ticketing questions. You have not gone to any coaching calls, or you've gone to one coaching call in the last 6 months. And sometimes a lot of those claims I have found is that people really just want to be heard and that they want to fix the problem. Like they bought this thing and they want a result. And a lot of the times they're like, you don't hear me. Right. I'm having a bad experience. I'm having a lot of these feelings. And when you can respond with like results and facts and be relatively neutral, who knows what's going to happen after that? But at least having your results and knowing that you're actually tracking their results for them of like, hey, you've submitted $2,000 in launch wins. Like, let's see if we can get that up to 20,000. Like knowing that you're keeping track of that stuff too can also alleviate some of that hostility, because people can come in really hot, especially if they're threatening to sue. Like having your results there might be a good way to kind of calm those. I don't know if you have ever seen that help alleviate a lawsuit.
Well, we did have one that we were negotiating, and without getting into too many specifics, my client really had not done anything wrong and was basically like, I'm not giving you a refund.
Yeah.
And so I was dealing with another lawyer, and sometimes lawyers are a little bit more reasonable because they are not so emotional. And in that case, it was actually the opposite of what you were talking about. The client had been super engaged. The client had achieved great results, but they still wanted their money back. And so we were able to lay out, like, here's all the sessions she attended. Here's her reported income. She made 30% more income than the previous year. I understand she's unhappy, but if anything, we went above and beyond. And again, I'm knocking on wood. You never know. But I haven't heard from that lawyer again since, kind of laying out all of that evidence, which I think is incredibly helpful.
Too, actually. Yeah, we've definitely seen that too, where someone's upset because they don't remember what their starting point was. It's like, you've actually have had like your launches combined, you made $150,000 off a 15K investment. Like, you can not like me, but like the results speak for themselves.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those things too. I wanted to capture some folks in the chat, what they're saying. Jamar said, I feel like I almost underhype my results because I don't want people to think it's magic. And someone else said I underhype too, but I also have a results not typical for my management clients. So how do you like talk about your marketing and hype up your offers while also not wanting to everyone to think like you have the silver bullet?
Yeah, it's always a delicate balance. And I think different business owners have different personalities and different styles of marketing. Some are really aggressive and are very in your face with their results and their promises, and others are a little more laid back. So I think it's going to depend on the business owner. But I will say, I mean, I've seen this. I've been in business 10 years now. I'm a lot more confident than I was on day one because I know I do good work and I know, my clients have seen good results. So I think some of it is just being in business long enough that you have that track record, I think can increase your confidence. And I'm not a mindset coach, but I think half of this is mindset, honestly. You can choose to worry about this, or you can choose to, do your best and get into action and go out there and tell people how fabulous you are.
Yeah. And Sharon says too, I work with makers on their profitability and cash flow. And if they don't put in the selling and marketing work, I can't guarantee anything will happen for them. And I think that's something that your sales pages also can speak to transparently as well. It's like, here's what it's going to take for you to get these types of results. Like we have this curriculum. Here's how we put on our sales pages, like, here's about how many videos, how many hours of videos there are. Here's how much you should be spending a week to like put in the work, and just being really clear that like, this is a program and the program requires work and requires your effort. Yeah. And being very explicit about that too, I think, so you can point to, and it's like, I told you how long, like if you're not taking the 4 hours a week to work on this, then like you won't see the results either. And so maybe being more clear about what it requires of you, because that's something that also a lot of people don't really know. They don't know how a recommended time, like how fast people actually get the result that they're promising. Maddie can point to, it takes an average of 72 days. If you say you can get somebody's YouTube channel up and running in 90 days or in a month, you have to be tracking that. I think that's the biggest thing. Whatever thing you're promising on your sales page, go look at that and then ask yourself, like, how do I know this is real? Like, yeah. I'm kind of doing it on vibes. Like, I think I can do this, but really being able to have the tracking systems, and that's what we help with, can help you hopefully avoid any like spicy client disputes or like the FTC, if it ever would come to that.
Yeah. And to your point, what we see is, that is going to decrease your sales, telling people how hard they're going to work, or telling people, this is not an overnight success story. But what it will get you is engaged clients who are going to have those great results. Yeah. So you're going to have fewer customer service issues. You're going to have fewer refund demands. So we have seen with clients who have a big money back guarantee, their sales will go up, but then they'll lose 20% of it in refunds. And that's expensive to process, to deal with. It makes you feel terrible. So, I'm a big fan of let's be honest on the front end. And then, your sales will be a little lower, but you're going to get repeat customers. You're going to get people talking about how great your program is. Like it's going to exponentially help you.
Yeah, I love that, of just being very honest and straightforward about like who the program's for and who it isn't for, and what the results take, and just acknowledging that like, people that aren't doing that might get more sales, but there's so many other issues that can happen. Your reputation might go down because you have 20 people being like, I bought it and it didn't work for me. Not because it doesn't work, but because they were the wrong fit for the offer at the time. I would love to hear you talk about money back guarantees, because you've mentioned it a couple of times. And is that something that you recommend doing? I've never had one, because my thoughts have been like, this is a digital offer. Like I have Airtable templates, like you're getting these, and money back guarantees just never seemed like a good fit for me in my business. But I'm curious, in terms of like consumer experience, consumer protection, like what are your thoughts on money back guarantees for coaches?
Yes. So I don't recommend or not recommend them. I try really hard with our clients not to be the department of no. So I'll say, if you want to do one, we'll help you do it the right way. But what I think a lot of people don't know is there are specific regulations around money back guarantees or any kinds of results guarantee. So if you are using a money back guarantee, you have to really give the refund. Like you can't pussyfoot around it and, deny the claim. Or if there are a bunch of steps that someone has to take before they can get the refund, if they, you see a lot of these like show your work money back guarantees, which again, it's fine, but you have to be really clear up front. What are all the steps that you have to go through to get the guarantee, to get the refund? Because again, a money back guarantee is a marketing tool. So it's going to reduce the risk for the purchaser. It increases the risk for the business because they know, the buyer has an out if they're not happy or if they don't achieve the results. Mm-hmm. So you have to be really clear with the buyer of like, what is that risk on the front end? And that is where often you'll see disclaimers too around these money back guarantees around what exactly is involved. Do they get 100% back? Is there any kind of like, we don't have a restocking in the online world, but sometimes, people will try and do a processing fee or, some sort of, because it does cost something to enroll someone and then disenroll them. That's generally not allowed. But there's some nuance here. So this is another one, like if you are using a money back guarantee, it is time to talk with a lawyer to make sure that you're doing it the right way.
Okay. That's really helpful. When should people talk to a lawyer and when should they, I have two questions. What templates should people have in terms of like disclaimer? Like, I'm like, okay, I think I should probably have a disclaimer on my site. Do you sell those of just like a result's not typical, even if they are typical, like what are the things to kind of cover yourself when it comes to, if you have a offer that is promising a result, what legal templates, terms and conditions, whatever should you have? And then at what point should you seek legal advice?
Yeah. One lawyer with one opinion. A website terms and conditions is a really great place to put a lot of these disclaimers. But that's not going to protect you against an FTC complaint because the FTC wants to see that disclaimer like right near the testimonial or the claim. Like it needs to be on your sales page. So we sell a website terms and conditions template, but the disclaimers that we do for this kind of compliance are custom. So I don't have a recommendation there. What I would say is we typically recommend that you are looking at working with a lawyer around 6 figures. So you've got substantial income. Probably you've either quit your job or you're looking at it. Maybe you have a small team. So you've got more to lose if something goes wrong. You've got more risk in your business just by growing. And that's a great time when you are, again, as your volume of customers goes up, you might start to have some little issues here and there. So it's a good time to go ahead and establish a relationship with a lawyer. That doesn't mean you need them on retainer. It may be a lot of lawyers have kind of a strategy session or like a legal overview where you can just for an hour sit down with them and look at your whole business. So that's a great idea. And then if you do have a refund issue or like one of my clients this morning, someone she just hired used to work for someone else and they're mad about her moving jobs. So she got a cease and desist letter. Like you don't want to be having to find a lawyer when you're kind of under that gun of a problem. So that's when we usually recommend. We work with businesses who are a little further along just because of our model. But there's lots and lots of lawyers who are happy to work with earlier businesses, kind of on a one-off basis.
Yeah, I think that's so smart just to kind of see which lawyers, one, fit your business model. Like there's like lawyers for accountants, lawyers for online coaches, lawyers for certain parts of the coaching industry, finding that one that like really, follow them on Instagram, listen to their podcast, download their templates and know that when your business grows and scales, like that's the person that you're probably going to go to or at least ask for recommendations, I think is really smart. And I love the advice. I really believe this, especially with systems too, is like, don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you now have a crazy like lawsuit that's on your desk and you're like, I've never even thought about having a lawyer for my business, or I've never even thought about tracking my results. Starting with like when you have 0 to 5 clients is a great time to start tracking your results. And if you have hundreds of clients and you haven't started tracking your results, now is the time also to roll back and like, let's create these systems and see if we can actually get these tracking systems ready.
Yes. Now is better than never, for sure.
Now is better than never. I want to share, just because I've kept talking about it, I'm going to share what the back end of Airtable looks like. So this is like what our client results tracker looks like on the back end, just because I think it'll be helpful for folks to see. So we always recommend that any coach has an Airtable base that tracks their client results. So we have what's called a primary student record, primary member, primary client, whatever. This is where all of your clients live. So their first name, their last name, their email, their status. So you just have a growing list of all of your students and your clients. Then what happens is that with Airtable, you can link the different forms that they fill out. So you'll see like, this is Ashley Payment Plan Test onboarding form. So you can see all of her details are here. You can see her results trackers. So every time she submitted a result, it's linked to her record here. This is how like Maddie, for example, is able to track all of her client results. So if we go to our results tracker, you can see here's everybody's, you can group and sort by different things. But here's 3 of Ashley's results that she's tracked. We can see the exact time she submitted it. We can see the amount that she submitted. We can see all of that at a glance. We really also help to make sure that our clients have like a culture of submitting client results, because you can create all of these trackers, but if your students or clients don't report, then it doesn't really do anything. So you can kind of gamify it, or you can make it like fun for folks to report these things. And so you just have all of this data at your fingertips. So you can see like the total money wins that they've ever submitted. You can see the last time they submitted a money win, and then you can send an automation that says, hey, it's been 31 days since you last submitted a money win. Do you have one to submit? Like, there's so many different things you can do with Airtable to make it so people really want to track their results. And so it just protects you. It helps the client. It helps your marketing. It makes it so you can do all these different types of disclaimers and be really honest and truthful in your marketing by just looking at the data that's inside of your results tracker. So it's very simple. If you've used a spreadsheet before, if you use Google Forms, you can absolutely use Airtable, but this is like for sure the best place to keep things organized, because you can do so much with the data and the results after you've collected them.
Well, and I love too that there's so many things, like you talked about doing the automated reminders, that it just makes it an easy lift for the business owner. I love this, Ashley.
Yeah, super easy lift. And I have found, I don't know if you've ever worked with a client who has Airtable versus who doesn't have Airtable, but when you have questions as a coach or a lawyer of like, hey, how many clients have you had? And like, what are your results? If they don't have a system like this, they are spending weeks trying to compile that information. I've worked with clients who just don't even know how many clients have gone through their program before. And so by having this all centralized, it can really help you when you're in a bind, or it can also just like help the service providers that you're bringing on, whether they're content creators or whether they're lawyers, help you faster because you have all of this centralized data.
I'll give a great example. We do have a client who uses Airtable, one of our larger clients. And so we were looking at protecting some of their trademarks in other countries because they're growing. They knew that they have a lot of customers who are not in the United States. And so I said, well, we can't do them everywhere because you have to do it country by country and it gets really expensive. But I said, what are your top 10? And I mean, in like 2 minutes, they were able to give me, these are the top 10 countries. This is how many customers we have there. And it made it very easy to prioritize where do we need to protect those rights. So gold star.
Yay. Airtable can really help you answer any question you have about your business in minutes. Like that is a perfect example of that. And I just love seeing that. And what's amazing about this too is that people like Maddie who are tracking their results, like that 162K, every day that's growing. And so it's like, maybe she makes it a weekly task of updating that. So you have just like automatic updates of these amazing numbers and results in your business that you can continue to grow. So you don't have to like every quarter do a big client results outreach report where you're like hunting people down. Like when you really build it into your offer to have people submit their results and track those things, then that's a really great way to track your results. I know you mentioned, and we'll wrap up soon, but I want to talk a little bit more about the intangible results tracking. So you mentioned that like weight and money are the 2 things that the FTC and legal is like, hey, like you're making claims that people are not backing up. Is there anything specific to consider with those folks that are tracking things like increased confidence or increased sex drive? Like who knows, like anything that's just more intangible, is there anything that they should be looking out for when it comes to tracking and like the legalities of that?
Yeah, so I'm curious what you've seen with your clients. We do have some who have like a questionnaire that they'll have clients fill out, that has them rating on a scale of 1 to 5, different things. So some way to try and make it a little bit more tangible. Like when you came in, you said your confidence was a 1 and now you say you're at a 3. So I can say I'm bad at math, but whatever percent increase, so you can kind of turn that intangible into a little bit more of a number.
Cool.
But then
that's exactly
again,
what we recommend our clients. It's like, how do we make this thing tangible? Those rating systems are huge. So it's nice. It's just nice that like you're affirming a lot of the things that we've been doing, because it's like, this is the right thing to do. And you're like, this is also like legal,
check.
Green flags. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, because think about how you would back up that claim. My clients have more confidence, or my clients sleep better at night. You can't really back that up if you don't have a way to measure it. And I know it is still a little bit in the gray area, but something is better than nothing.
Something is better than nothing. And if you have a results tracking system, you're at least like, you're on the right path, it seems. And so that's really great to just like, I know I love our tracking systems. I'm so passionate about them because I think a lot of us are wondering too, like the big question, like, is the coaching industry dying? And it's like, coaching industry isn't dying, but more people are being better consumers. And like, I think the FTC is like, that's like, it's consumer protections. Like,
correct.
They're being better consumers. They're asking better questions, and they're being smarter about like, I've seen these same 4 testimonials on this person's website for the last 5 years. Where's the data? What else is going on? Yeah. And so the industry is not dying, but like bad coaches are either leaving the industry because they don't actually have the results. And the ones that are shining are really the ones that can prove. They just have these like walls of receipts to point to.
Yes. I love it.
Anything else you want to share, Autumn? Anything we didn't cover that you want to make sure that coaches know?
I had one thing that popped into my mind as we were talking about tracking your clients' results and then using them in your marketing, which is you need to make sure you're getting permission from your clients to do that, especially if you're using, if they report a win and it's some sort of paragraph about what happened. We see that a lot on sales pages, snapshots of Facebook comments or things. Even if it's anonymous, it can get you in. It won't get you in legal trouble, but it could make your client very unhappy, even if it's anonymous sometimes. So we build those into all of our, we call them terms of use for our clients that have coaching programs or sell an online course. So you tell the client right up front, either I will or I won't use any feedback that you give me potentially in my marketing, or I'll ask you permission, or, I'll keep it totally confidential. But you just can tell them that right up front.
That is an amazing thing. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because that is something I do see a lot is people they'll blur out names, but they'll put it in a Slack channel. Like they'll put wins from the Slack channel onto their IG stories. Now I know in terms of our tracking, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. So there's either like, you can ask you have that blanket terms of use of like, we do this. Sometimes though, like, I feel like there's like another courtesy. I don't know, like legality, but like the courtesy of like, hey, we're going to share this. And so I've seen 2 ways to do it, which is one, in their onboarding form, asking like, hey, we like to share screenshots of testimonials. Are you open to this? And they're saying like, yes, blur my name. Yes. Like maybe please ask me individual use cases, or no, please never use me in your marketing. So like having those options. Then something else that people do with other wins trackers is they'll say like, they'll ask per win, can we share this?
Yeah.
Or can we not share it? So do you have a preference either way? Is asking in the onboarding one time good enough? Should we be asking every time they submit a form? Like what's best practices that you see?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on the culture of the business. First of all, I love, as part of the onboarding, the thing that makes me think of is remember to go check it before you post the win. Gathering the information is no good if you're not actually looking at it,
right?
And what they had a preference. So I will say,
which is actually even probably more harmful if you
have
documentation of like, no, don't use this, and your OBM just is like posting over there. Yeah, be sure to check that.
Yeah. And then what was the second scenario? Oh, asking every time. I would say, again, it's the culture of the business. If you have 10,000 people in a program, it may not be feasible to ask every time. But if you have a really small, cozy cohort, that also feels more private. It may feel more appropriate.
Totally. And it always depends on the type of wins that people are sharing. If they're sharing like stuff, there's just so many different ways that you might want to be more protective of people. Yeah. But I think that's a really great point is don't just share people's wins, even if you blur them, without asking, like having some type of consent-based form, whether that culture is just right in your onboarding form or each win, figuring out that. I think that's such a great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
The other thing I see, I'm sure you see this too, is sometimes during big launches, you'll see like screenshots of the person's name as people join, or like on a Post-it note. Again, I'm like, that feels really gross unless it's very clear, in your terms when they sign up that that's a possibility.
Yes. And we actually, in our onboarding form, and whenever I join a program, I know people have used my systems because I see like the exact verbiage. They'll say like, we love to shout out our clients when they join the program. Is that something we can do? And it says, yes, shout me out. And then it'll say, great, can you add a little headshot? That also makes it easy, like operational
that's great.
wise, to be like, all right, like this person said that they like can be shouted out. And you don't get every single person, but I think it is something just to note, like when you're sharing and showcasing, even if you're just saying like first name and initial that join the program, welcome. People have unique names. Like they might not want to be shared, and you're giving them a bad vibe by like it's right off the bat. Their onboarding experience is like, oh, are they just using me? As
it feels like being taken advantage of for sure.
And you don't want to take advantage of people, and your systems can really help you get consent very easily. So
and track it.
And track the consent. And then if you have someone who comes in later is like, I hate your program, please remove every testimonial you've ever done. Like you also would have the like, hey, you told us we could use these. Like we'll go and remove. You know, you can figure out what happens there, but you have that documentation. I think that's so important when you're dealing with customer service issues that are not even close to getting to like legal issues, but if they escalate to that, having that documentation is just so crucial.
Yes.
Beautiful. Well, Autumn, thank you so much. Please remind us again where people can follow you and the types of business owners and the specific level that you work, business owners that you work for, and who would be the best fit to work with you.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. So we are AWB Firm. It's my initials, all over the place, Instagram, Facebook, and our website is just awbfirm.com. So we primarily are working with what I would call like established and growing online businesses. So most of our clients are at that $500,000 to $1 million or more of annual revenue. And we really are outside general counsel. So we are talking with them frequently, at least once every month or two, helping them with the things that pop up in their business. And that's who we love to work with. So if you are earlier than that, there are lots of other lawyers who can help you. This is just kind of the area that we have landed on. We also do sell contract templates for many things, not FTC disclaimers, but for many, many things, coaching terms of use, website terms and conditions, privacy policies. So those are all on the website as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone that watched live. And if you are watching the replay, go ahead and leave us some comments about some ahas or whatever you've got. And we will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for being here, Autumn.
Thanks, Ashley.